Ladies and gentlemen, we are back! Back for another episode of the Draxx Life podcast, where we'll chat about some of the weird and the wondrous. Let's get to the show. And we're live. This is another episode of the Draxx Life. It's been a little, it's been a week. No, it's been 2 weeks.
Been a couple.
How you
weeks.
doing? How you doing, Bobby A?
I'm doing pretty well. A couple stories to tell. But first, how was your vacation, man? How about you?
It was good. It was uneventful. Not too much to report. I was in Virginia. I was in a house off the bay, and just was like, sun, water, recreation, some family time, nice weather, beautiful. I mean, it's actually pretty beautiful on the East Coast right now, which we are both currently living.
What city was this? What town?
So it's Montrose is the town. It's small. Like, it's not, like, put it this way, if you wouldn't go there for like nightlife or to like meet people. It's really like a very kind of small old town. But like, it's kind of interesting. I think this is true maybe across the country. My brother kind of made this comment. Like, after the pandemic, like, I think people's eyes opened as to like where it's possible to live. So like, it's interesting. You go to some of these like, what you could call like old towns, and you can start to see that like younger people are moving there, like for some reason it never was on their mind as a place to live, and now it is. So like where we were staying, you could see like a lot of houses being that were bought, and like the community's kind of old, but you'll look at the house and you'll be like, oh, that like monstrous house looks like it belongs in like Miami or like Boca Raton, Florida. Like, so like someone definitely like bought an old house, knocked it down, and built like something more modern because it's, it's right on the water. But like, if you then like zoom out, it's not like there's like a very vibrant scene, to use that word, in that area. It's like an old town. It's like people who like fish for a living or like plumbers and stuff like that, but they kind of live right on the bay. So it was cool, man. It was just relaxing would be the key word.
So you were with your family, though?
This was a family vacation.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a place I would have gone solo, because it was just, unless I was going on like a pilgrimage to like, mainframe with the secrets of the universe. But right, because it's like there wasn't like a lot to see or to do. But like for a family vacation, it's cool because that's just about like, really spending time with like your family, and like that's the reason you're there. So yeah, it was cool, man.
Right.
I'm back. It's been a week, back to the grind, and yeah, man. How have you been?
I've been all right. Just similar. Just working, trying to stack the bread because there's the move that's coming. The international
make that cheddar.
Yeah, the international move is coming. I'm trying to be Canadian, everyone. That's what I'm gonna do. That's the goal.
All right.
Yeah, so I think the first step for me, everything else is mundane except for the one story we'll tell later. I met a lovely woman, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But for me, my target finally is. Remember when we were talking about on the last episode where it's like things haven't gone the way I envisioned it or I wanted to go, and not even partially, the majority of it has been my fault, and I'll hold my hands up. I will admit that.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little too comfortable in certain places, but we're not going to have a midlife crisis, Chris. We're going to have a midlife renaissance. You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's and for me, I think I'm going to take one step west. I'm going west, but not California west, not the gold rush. We're talking Lewis and Clark, Pacific Northwest. That's what we're doing.
That's awesome. Well, you and I talked about that.
Yeah.
So do you have a time frame in mind as to when you're going to make this,
Yeah,
this move?
Summer 2025. So in less than 12 months.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
I think it's important to put a date on things. So that's I'm kind of
All
glad.
right.
I thought you were going to say like 2027 or something. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, no,
Like
no, no, no,
that's
no.
almost too far where it's like, oh, there's a lot of escape routes. Whereas 2025, that's you're talking about next summer.
I'm talking about, yeah, like July, August 2025. And then
And
the next eventual step would be Canada.
well, hey, take the first step first because who knows?
Yeah,
You might like love it there. You might find the that part of the country like great. So don't think too far into the future. Like that's going to be a journey in and of itself. Is the Haitian Wander? Have you broached this subject to him?
I have. And I I believe he's open to it, but he drags his feet with a lot of things. Like you said, you gave me good advice. You got to get in early with Joseph because things can change on a dime, or he'll just forget about it for 4 months, and then he'll
Yeah,
get back to you.
dude.
But go ahead.
Before we move to another subject, but just to linger here, I was thinking like it might even be kind of. I think that the ability to get him to move with you is probably like if we were betting men, like the odds are not in your favor. But
Right,
what you
right,
could
right,
do
right.
is kind of like kind of what is the expression? You could bait him a little bit, where like see if you can get him to like help you move, like take a 2 week vacation. He likes that part of the country. Just
I
be like,
agree.
hey man, come spend the first 2 weeks with me. You'll have a place to stay in my apartment. Kind of maybe give me a hand moving, and then he can kind of see what it's. Oh, okay, you know what I mean. You kind of like plant the seed. So maybe summer 2026 he's like, oh, okay, maybe I'll do it then.
Yeah, no, I think I'm confident enough. Um, I could do it on my own, but I would prefer like that. I that's what I
Yeah,
told him. It would be fun. It would be a fun way to for both of us to open up a new frontier. I would say.
yeah,
So
it's a shakeup.
yeah, yeah, it's yeah, definitely, especially for him, for being. Yeah, I don't want to say anchored because he's taking care of a lot of things on the family side.
Yeah,
But for me, I'm a free agent. You know what I'm saying? I can be mobile. I'm not stuck in any position.
yeah. And I honestly like to your point, and this doesn't have to. I don't want to put the spotlight on
Yeah,
your life
fair
too
enough.
much,
Yeah,
or a spotlight on my life too much. But yeah, I mean, like you just picking at some of the things you said. I think it's kind of sometimes I think a move is important in that like
hmm
if you're in
hmm
a rut, like let's just call it what it is. Like it's a people get
it's a
into
rut.
ruts,
It's a rut.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
You're kind of going through the motions, you're surviving, but like you're not, let's say, thriving by your definition of thriving, right? Because everyone's
Exactly.
definition is
Exactly
different.
right.
Um,
Yeah,
and I
exactly
was
right.
actually I was thinking about this today when I was walking around in the morning. I was like, dude, like it's no one has the right to kind of like tell someone how to live their life as long as the like but like if you're gonna make choices kind of like just what you did, it's like no one has the right to tell you what you should do, but you got to own your decisions. So
Right,
like if you
right,
make
right,
a
right.
choice and it's like, you know what, that was a bad choice, you got to kind of say, it was my choice and it was a bad choice. um but by extension, no one has the right to say like you should or you shouldn't do this. But in this
Correct,
case, I
correct,
think like
correct.
if you get in a rut and you identify it, which is I think is something not everyone's able to do, moves are I think are helpful. Like it does shake things up because it's like sometimes you move yourself geographically and it also moves you like mentally, like like your whole frame of reference shifts and like it can kind of kick you out of that rut. So I think it's cool,
Yeah,
man. I think if you do pull it off, it would be a kind of an awesome adventure.
I agree 100%, and I think the uh, what I've realized, and obviously I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, go into the abyss, but
The
with
darkness.
yeah, with I've done DMT and it opened up my mind to a lot of things. I've realized one of my biggest, I would say, not necessarily a crutch, but I would say something that was holding me back, an obstacle
Hmm.
in my life was I was living my life to try to make other people um, proud of me, or a sense of affirmation and validation from other people. And once I did DMT, I realized I'm going to do what I want to do. And if you're not on board with that, I respect your opinion. It's all good. We can still be friends. But I'm going to do what I want to do now. I'm not going to live my life the way you think I should live my life. You see what I'm saying?
Mm,
So that changed
interesting.
everything. So it changed everything. That
I want to
changed
ask some
everything.
more questions, but again,
Yeah.
I don't want
No,
to put
that's a different episode.
I
It's
don't
a
want to put a
different episode.
spotlight on you too
Yeah.
much. That might be a conversation we have like offline.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's awesome. I think it'd be really cool to have to record an episode where you're not in New York and you're in, you know,
In like
some
Seattle, somewhere,
yeah,
somewhere in Washington,
I think
or
that would be really cool. This is
yeah.
like you're starting your Frasier chapter.
Yeah. Fucking Frasier.
Pretty much like you're gonna go
Yeah.
off and start something new and like
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
So
I mean
from
that's
Cheers to Frasier, basically.
and I have said that what is the guy's name? What actor is that in
In Frasier.
in Cheers, in Cheers?
Oh, Ted Danson.
Ted Dan. You are Ted Danson.
Yeah.
You in my mind.
Tom.
But like
Yeah. Malone.
yeah,
Malone.
even in like Bored to Death, you're Ted Danson. That's like
Yeah. Yeah.
your
He's
older
the
self.
fashion magazine, and
Yes.
he's a stoner though.
But dude,
Yeah.
I mean just to like cap off this little chapter of our talk today, but
Yeah.
I think that like as long as you're alive, like this is my thinking anyway. It's like as long as you have breath in your body, like there is hope.
Yeah. 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 I know what you're gonna say.
And like things can change. So that's why I think it's cool. Like the whole, I think a lot of times, you talk to different friends and it's like, or even just like our culture, it's like we have like this underlying view of like our culture is very much focused on young people and like trying to think
Very much is.
how to word this, but like even in our own psyche, like you talk to people and it's like, or you have friends and like let's say they have kids or whatever, the way they see themselves becomes like old, and they start to use more like old. Oh, I'm getting so old, or like you know
Mm-hmm.
like they're at the end of their life and they're like 40 years old. I don't know why that is, but like I think that's like something that I have noticed. And I guess my point is like, dude, as long as you're alive, like things can change at any time. Like your life, like from the beginning of the year to the end of the year could be like so vastly different that it like bends reality. You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't happen to everyone all the time, but it's just like you can probably find examples where literally within a 48-hour period, someone's life, it was completely changed in sometimes good ways and then sometimes bad ways. Like, and
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
is kind of like a kind of a magical thing. Like as long as you're alive, like, dude, your life could be very different within short periods of time. You could be at the bottom of a mountain on a Monday and Friday you're at the top. And like looking back, you're like, in my wildest dreams, I could never have imagined like what could have transpired within such a short period of time. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. No. 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 It's good. And I the last thing I'll say on this topic is people whose opinion I value and whose analysis I trust always say, it's like, listen, I don't have a family, I don't have children, I'm not attached in any way. If you're going to do this move, you got to do it now. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? Because I'm not sunk into a place. I'm not anchored down by anything. So, not that I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, where
no,
a
no,
family is an anchor. You know what I'm saying? But I'm free to move about and, like you said, go on an adventure and see what happens. You
dude,
never
a
know.
year from now, you don't know. You might
Yeah,
have those things, and then it's
correct,
like your
correct.
decision making. It's no, I 100% agree with you. It's not a negative. It's just like
Yeah.
I think it's important that you don't limit yourself based off of other people's limitations.
Uh,
And
right.
meaning it like if you have a friend, I'm me, I'm very family like focused. Like I think getting married, having kids, like that, in no way do I look at that in a negative light. But that person who's made those choices, is also now reaps the reward of that, but also is limited to certain other things, right? Like they can't, let's say, make I mean, they could, but it's more difficult to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
like a
yeah.
crazy move or to start a very risky business, for example, because of choices they made. That's like, now it's not about you, right? It's like you got these people that you're responsible for. You get value
Mhm,
from
mhm.
them, right? And a lot of like happiness and joy, but you can't, you're a little bit more limited in what you can and can't do. Nothing wrong with that. So if you allow that person's thinking and their circumstances to influence your circumstances,
Yeah, there
it's
you go.
flawed, right? Because you don't
There you
have
go.
those limitations, right? So you can go move. So I think it's important. Yeah, you got to kind of like look at everyone's advice, but also from the perspective of like, okay, well, where are you at and where is your advice coming from? Because maybe your advice doesn't apply to me, or maybe your limitations don't apply to me just by fact of like, I'm single, right? Like you can go move. You could go move to Seattle, spend a month. It doesn't work out and say, you know what, I'm going to come back. Nothing's
Right.
stopping you. It's not like
Yeah,
you put your kids into school and now it's like, okay, we got to pull them out of school.
correct, correct.
So anyway,
Yeah,
dude,
mobility is the word. Mobility. Yeah.
yeah, and within the context of what we're talking about, yeah, mobility, right? But now it's like, you're single, so you don't maybe get the emotional support of a partner. That's a negative of that.
It's a
Whereas
con. That's one of the
yeah, the
cons.
person
Yeah.
who's married they do get that as a benefit. So yeah, I mean, I think that's just important. Like that's why I try nowadays to not give my opinion. I try hard to like keep my mouth shut because I'm opinionated. But at the end of the day, dude, everyone is like, I don't know that much. Like we don't know that much. Like people think they know too much, or like just because you have a lot of data points floating around your head, you think that's wisdom, and like that's not the case. So yeah, and we're better off just trying to like do our own thing and let the actions kind of show if our thinking was correct or not, rather than like our words or our opinions. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. We should.
go ahead.
I do have more to say, but we have to move on before we get
Yeah,
bogged down. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
So
let's.
UFC,
Yeah.
I got home, so I came home last Saturday morning. So I watched all a good chunk of the fights that day. I watched the main event on Sunday. You know what? I missed the women's the co-main event. But yeah, what were your thoughts, dude? For those who are listening to this, I want to say I think and there's maybe one other person, Marion, got
Got me into
Robert
UFC.
Avery into
Yeah.
UFC. Like that's one of the
Pretty
few
true. It's not wrong.
athletic events where I'm like, I have influenced someone to watch a sporting event.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I would say that's true.
so go ahead.
Eh,
What were your thoughts? Did you? So I know we talked a little bit. I didn't. This episode hasn't come out yet, but we talked about this fight going into it. Did it meet your expectations? Was anything a surprise to you?
well, I did call Shevchenko winning. I did call
You
that.
did. You did.
Which was not the odds maker's favorite, by the way. So
Which
I
was
was,
interesting. You did
yeah,
text me that.
yeah, yeah. But so in an overall synopsis of everything, you didn't, and I told you this, you didn't miss much because the best fights are the ones that you saw,
Yeah.
and the two title bouts. The interesting thing about like when you get a big mega fight like those two were, it's either going to be scintillating, sensational, and a classic, or it's kind of boring because both both Marab and Shevchenko both use the same strategy. They're
Mm,
they made it methodical. They slowed the fight down. They wrestled. The strategy was get the striker to the ground and just milk the clock a little bit, score points, and milk the clock and win on decision. It was clear. Whereas the other fights, you saw the other fights. What I think I have them up here. Like the Ortega Lopez, the
yeah.
Zulhaber Ribovitz. That one was crazy, where they were just haymakers. It was just it was Street Fighter. That's a Street Fight. That's mashing the buttons in the arcade playing. That's what it was. But the other two fights were more cerebral, and Shevchenko and Marab clearly had a strategy. I'm going to take the striker to the ground, and I'm going to score points, and I'm going to win on decision. I'm not looking for finishes. They were not. Neither of them were looking for a finisher. But go ahead.
No, go. Keep
Yeah,
going. Finish
and
your thought.
Shevchenko also, when she took Grasso down, once she got caught in the guillotine, and the badass part about that was the referee asked Shevchenko if she wanted to give up because it was pretty cinched in.
Interesting.
But yeah, if you go back and see it, I believe it was like in the fourth round.
Who was? Do you recall who the ref was?
I don't know his name, but it wasn't the famous ref, the guy
Not
with the
Herb.
dreads.
Not
It
Herb
wasn't
Dean.
her. It wasn't
Okay.
Herb Dean. Um,
Interesting.
it was another ref, and the ref asked Shevchenko if she wanted to give up because Grasso got her in a guillotine after Shevchenko took her down. Grasso made a nice counter and immediately put her in the guillotine, but I think Shevchenko got her chin down just enough
Mm-hmm.
so that it wasn't fully clenched in, but it was pretty tight. Even the announcers, DC and Rogan, is like, this is pretty locked in right now.
Yeah, so I'm
But
looking. It's interesting. Like all for the main card, every fight was a
it
decision.
was the decision. I also noticed that too. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. That means every one of these fights went the full either
Yeah,
3 or
that's why it
5
ended at
rounds.
2:30 in the morning. That's what I told
Yeah,
you. I was like,
I
they
mean
got
that's
to
why
stop that.
I was done. I was not going to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I do have a problem. One problem with Dana White, I would say, is stop putting these 25-minute promo packages between the fights. Come on,
Well, yeah, I agree with you.
but
I agree with you.
it's for the marketing, it's for the PR, the commercializing. They have. I see why he's doing it, but it's like
Well, so what time if you were in on the West Coast, right? Because this was in Vegas. What time would it have gotten done? One like 12,
11,
12:30?
11:30. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's the thing. It's like if you're on the East Coast watching this, I mean, if you're in another country, I can't imagine. But like, yeah, it's just too late. Like for me, I'm not gonna get enough value out of the entertainment for it to be worth like going to bed at like 2:30 and then starting my day. You have to work. You work on Sunday. So like for you, I was surprised when I saw that text message. I was like, what did he do? Stay up till 2:30?
I know. I
Um,
watched the whole thing. Uh,
but did you like the sphere, like that stadium? What like all of the right, because they picked that place because they were going to do this immense like visual package that you described. Like,
it
did you
was
think it was?
cool.
Did
It
you think
was
it was
cool.
cool?
It was cool. But I hate the owner of the Sphere. Let's have that right. I hate him, James Dolan. So the same person that owns the Sphere owns Madison Square Garden, MSG Sports Network, which is the television station, and the New York Rangers and the New York Knicks. He's single-handedly ruined those two franchises.
In what way? Because I know you and I didn't know who he was, and then you and Joe both kind of commented on him.
Yeah.
Give me like a snippet of like what has he done?
Okay, so James Dolan is the son of the men. Remember, because Chris, you're from the tri-state area.
Yeah,
Remember Cablevision, the first cable when it was kind of a monopoly before it was Spectrum and Verizon and all those.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, all right. So for anyone from the tri-state area that don't know, there was a company called Cablevision, which was the first cable network available in all of New York City, like southern, southwest Connecticut, and northeast New Jersey, and Long Island. His father founded Cablevision. So he was rich. He was born already into a billionaire family, right?
Hmm.
Cablevision eventually dissolved into MSG Corporation because once everyone started cutting the cord and going to the streaming, Cablevision was unnecessary anymore. Even though some people still have cable, I still have cable. Um, because I like there's certain features of cable that I like, which is I think Chris you would appreciate this. Instead of streaming where you have to select something you want, I
Mm-hmm.
like scrolling and seeing, oh shit, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels are on. I'm gonna watch that. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I
no,
don't have to pick anything.
I can get that. And also, like things that you weren't thinking about will pop up, and you're like, "Oh, I haven't thought about
Yeah, I
that
haven't
in
seen that in a while.
15 years."
Lock, Stock is an amazing
Yeah,
movie, by the way. I love
it
that
is. It
movie.
is.
uh, So, but that's another episode because there's a lot I want to say about that.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate who's the guy who played in Jason Statham. Like before
Yeah,
Jason Statham
was
was
an
the
action
action
star.
star,
Yeah,
he was like in these kind of indie British films, which is kind of like
like these
most people don't realize that.
these noir crime films in England. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Well,
that was
okay.
Guy Ritchie's first movie. That's Guy
Yeah.
Ritchie's first ever movie. So anyway,
So
so
okay, but so what
James
did he
Dolan is the
what did
son
he
of the
do?
founder.
Uh-huh.
He took over when his father passed, and MSG owns both sports franchises, but they also own half of the property that Madison Square Garden sits on. So you know how rich that is? He owns in Penn Station, he's a 50% owner of Penn Station, basically.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which
Okay.
is wild. But this motherfucker, I'm gonna try to keep it as clean as I can. But
It's fine.
this guy, because that guy he rattles me. This guy, he's also been accused of being involved in the Epstein stuff and the
Oh, okay.
and assault cases, which got dismissed because he probably paid off the judge. Let's have it right. And so yeah, I'm getting worked up talking about
Yeah,
James.
I'm
So
saying get to it. Like
yeah.
it's like
So he
you're setting the table. I want to
yeah
eat the meal.
yeah. So the meal is the Knicks or Rangers haven't won a single championship
Oh, okay.
since 1994.
And
Yeah,
how is it his fault?
because he it's all what's the word nepotism, all
Yeah.
nepotism hiring.
Um,
He alienates players. He's banning alumni players from Madison Square Garden. He's meddling into the decision. So he's not a basketball or hockey guy, but he'll meddle in the decision making. So he'll hire the general manager to make roster building decisions and personnel deployment
hmm.
decisions. But then he'll say, "No, you got to play this person because this guy has commercials on TV and I want more money." And even though that player could be just dog shit, but
So
he's like, this guy has to play because he's making marketing money for me.
let me ask you this question real quick because we did a previous episode back in the day about like football, like the business and
Yeah,
also hockey, which was a good episode because I'm not a sports guy.
yeah,
So in this case, right, like so he owns Madison Square Garden, the stadium,
yeah,
the venue, but like there's sporting teams. So like what's a sports team? The Knicks would play there, but the Knicks
yeah.
is owned by a separate and like that's not the Knicks is owned by another group of people.
No, he has a monopoly on all of it.
So he owns the Knicks as well.
He owns the stadium. He owns the New York Knicks franchise. He owns the New
Oh,
York
okay.
Rangers franchise. He owns the MSG television station, and he owns the Sphere.
Oh, that's
Supreme,
crazy.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
So
he,
he just
yeah,
basically he meddles in the decisions,
yeah. So he could make a decision that'll positively affect like one aspect of his business, but let's say might
but it'll
hurt
harm the team.
another aspect of his business, which is the
Yeah,
sports team. Ah,
it'll.
okay, that's
Oh,
interesting.
he routinely makes decisions like that
You would
harm the
think
team.
that's like, I mean, I think there's a moral to this, and then we can move on. But
Yeah,
it's like with sports, as a view, like you're a sports fan. Like for anyone who's listened to these episodes in the past, like
yeah.
we know that Bobby A is like a big hockey fan and also a big international soccer fan. Like knows teams intimately. Like is I would call like a very educated consumer
Oh
of
yeah.
like hockey and soccer in particular.
I'm watching South American club football. I'm watching the Brazilian league.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Um,
But go
but
on.
I think there's like one moral of the story is that like as from your perspective and from like most people who watch soccer, it's like the purity of the game, the sport. But the reality is that like that's kind of like for the peasants. The reality is that these are just massive businesses, and the only thing that really matters is like profits, right? It's like UFC. Like he's a good example. Like people
You're
shit
right.
on
You're right. You're right.
like UFC is like they have ranks and like is it a sport? Like my friend says, he's like, is it a sport or is it entertainment? Well, it's like entertainment that's trying to become a sport, but really it's entertainment. And you know this because like fights are chosen and not necessarily based off the ranks. It could be just because you're very popular. You have like a, you have good social media, so you have a lot of eyes. So you get kind of like fast tracked, etc. Because from like Dana White's perspective, it's like this is an entertainment business and it makes money if it's entertaining. And I kind of think that maybe that's like that is the disconnect between like the purity of a sport,
Yeah,
like the
yeah, you're right.
Olympics,
You're right.
and
You're
like
right.
the reality is like no, even the Olympics is like people think the Olympics is like this pure, you know, the best of the best competing against each other. But then you find like you watch documentaries and like you hear about like the ad spots that are in the Olympics and like how valuable they are. And like, again, it's at the top looking down. It's like gladiatorial combat, right? Like that was not about us. That was just entertainment for the masses. And at the top, like there was ulterior motives and ulterior goals. Um,
Yeah,
and
no,
I don't
no,
know,
that's well said. But I
but that's why
where
yeah, that's
I would disagree with that, and
go
what
ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
what winds me up, and then we can move on because this could be a whole episode about the
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
like the financial side
And
of
again,
athletics.
speaking of things I don't know, that's why it's kind of cool to talk about this. We should get Joe on for one of these because like
Yeah,
the
like
business of
financial side.
sports is
Yeah,
interesting. But go
it
ahead, go
is.
ahead.
It's two things. Number one, I know they're aware of this, but the business side, the financial aspect, it's not lost on me. I understand that the majority of these owners and the people that actually have the decision making authority and like the final say on what's going on. It's about money, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
However, at some point, athletics is about winning trophies and medals and winning. The fact that they milk the fan base and they manipulate everyone to buy these expensive tickets because going to a Knicks game costs like, if you're going to sit close to the court, it costs like $2,000, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, are you kidding me? So to see a mediocre team, and so him milking the fan base and manipulating everyone for money when the Knicks haven't won a trophy in 50 years. That's the problem. Like, win something, then you can do up all the PR and the marketing. But then it's fine. Do the commercials and all this celebrity. But there's a lot more to it because the players want to be celebrities now. The fans don't give a shit anymore. They just want to have a fun day out at Madison Square Garden, take a picture of themselves, post it so everyone's jealous that they're at the game. It's a lot wrong with it. But what I resent is he's taking two of the most valuable franchises and run them into the ground. But their financial value on the Forbes list, the Knicks are still the number two most valuable NBA franchise in the world. Or there's only NBA is only America, so there's in America. The Rangers are number two in the NHL. So he has no incentive. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Financially, he's fine, but we haven't won a title. We're an embarrassment. We have all these resources. We have the city of New York, and both teams combined haven't won anything since he's been there. James Dolan has never lifted a trophy since he's been the owner of either of these teams. Never. It's crazy. But
So I'm going to bring up this one point, and then this might be something we spiral into another conversation one day. But listening to what you're saying, it makes so two things come to my mind. One is that like you're in the sense of like since these athletes get paid so much, you're banking on the kind of stereotype, for lack of a better word, that they care about winning. When in reality, it's like,
they probably don't. It's a job
well,
for them.
when in reality, it's like if I'm getting paid like X number of dollars, right? Like I get paid whether we win or lose. If I'm a key player and I'm not, really doing my best, I might get cut. But like, let's say I'm kind of like I'm thinking of like football, where it's like maybe you're not the star, but you're one of these other players that's like consistent and you're getting paid well. Like, do you really care if you lose? The only reason you really care is like if you have that competitive, um, that competitive drive, like that athlete's drive, which I don't know if that's even like, I don't know if that's like, again, that's like the
No, it's a
disconnect
good point.
between sports as a profession versus sports as like pure competition. Um, and then also I would say it's like, that's also kind of the beauty of combat sports in that it's one on one.
That's true. Very true.
Like, you don't want to be embarrassed. So even if you're getting a paycheck that's like, let's say the winner and the loser, like, let's say the both make $1 million. There's a difference
Mm-hmm.
between like if you're on a team of like, I don't know how many, like 12, where it's like you got paid, we both got paid $1 million, and shit, I don't care. I'm gonna go home and like enjoy my weekend. Another thing is like when you're gonna go fight someone and they're gonna hurt you and potentially embarrass you. So like, even though it is entertainment, like the fact that it's mano a mano and like your personal reputation is on the line, like it kind of like, and I think kind of fights through that like professional sports veneer, because it's like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like, I don't want this guy to knock me out and then I'm gonna have to go online and be embarrassed for like the next
No, that's a
4 or 5
yeah.
months, right? Because you see some of these fights where it's like, like an analyst will describe, it's like, why be safe, play it safe. Why are you like, they're like being overly aggressive, and it's like, no, no, calm down, be safe, be safe. But it's like, because their reputation's on the line, they're trying to prove something. Um, and I think that's kind of like an interesting, like that is an interesting thing. Because if you're like a professional football player, like you gotta wonder, like, do you, when they lose the game, are they going home crying as they drive home in their like Mercedes, or
No,
or
they're not.
or
They're
I
absolutely
mean,
not.
maybe some, but like, again, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I think you, back in the day, professional sports, like they weren't paid as much, and like they were sportsmen, if to use that kind of like old word, like, and like a sportsman was someone like cared about competition, and like they were a professional sportsman. Now I think they're more like professional entertainers that play a sport. Is that too far off, you think?
No, I think I never thought about it that way, but I think what I call them now is that's this another component of modern American sports that I think is a problem where like you said, the athletes, they're not really interested in winning championships and titles. They don't really have a connection with the fan base. What they want to become are celebrities and influencers, and they want to have commercials and shoe deals, and they want to be sponsored by a certain clothing line and stuff like that. That's what they care about. They want to date. They want to date the hottest musician, the trendy musician now. They don't care, male or female. It doesn't matter. Have you seen the WNBA? I
No.
The WNBA entrances are like they're not like they are um, catwalks now, runway model shows. It's like a fashion show. Whenever the players walk into the stadium now, they have certain outfits on, and they stop, and there's paparazzi and photographers. Like the bulbs are flashing. It's a runway show now
Yeah.
when they walk into the stadium. That's what they want. You see what I'm saying? They rather have raised their profile, and I'm not picking on the WNBA. Don't get it twisted,
No,
because
no,
the
I got
NBA
you.
players are the same way. The men do the same shit. They
Yeah.
do the same shit. So
Well,
it's
I mean, yeah, I think it's just the fact that like this is the idea, like the business of entertainment. I think
it's
people are just
entertainment, exactly.
realizing more and more that like this is all entertainment. Like it's a, they call it like what, show business, right? Like how it's a, all of this is all of this is show business. It's all under that umbrella, and like, it's UFC is the exact same. Like, when if you think about what is the UFC as a business, it's a production company.
Correct. Yes.
And when they talk about it as a business, or when you get any of the like it's, everyone's aware of it, right? Like all of the promo videos, like a fighter leading up to his fight has to do all of these things that are like production things. Like,
Yeah.
I got to take this video, I got to do these. When they do like when they're lining them up with their stats, it's kind of like a moving image. Like, so they had to book time and have a photographer come in and do that. And again, it's all entertainment. It's entertainment for the
It's
masses.
yeah.
Like, that's what this stuff is.
This
Um,
is why I've said UFC and WWE are crossing streams. They're becoming more like one another. UFC is becoming so much like WWE, where you have people in the back cutting promos.
yeah.
There's like smack talking. It's the same thing as wrestling. The same
Uh,
thing. And wrestling
yeah.
is also copying things from UFC as well. And they're
I
all
mean, the thing with WWE is a good. I mean, they're fantastic at what they do. So I think it'd be foolish. Think about it. The WWE, formerly WWF, like, right? They were a
yeah,
traveling production company, right?
that's right.
They did how many days of the week were they in another place, taking over another stadium and transforming it into like what they expect a WWE event to be, and they are experts at that. Um, but like, again, that's why WWE is kind of like or that kind, professional wrestling is interesting because they don't make pretenses that they're anything but
Exactly.
entertainment.
They're self aware about what the product is. Correct.
Yeah. Whereas, and most people, like anyone who thinks that, like people who watch this stuff believe it's real. No, I think Hulk Hogan called it like, this is sports theater. Like, it's sports theater. Like, that's like, there's a name for it.
Hmm.
But it's funny because really football is the same thing. It's just they're not self aware to admit that that's what they are.
Yeah, yeah. They're
Right? Because it doesn't matter. Like, all right, you won, you won. We both made $50 million this year. Okay, like, you know what I mean. At the end of the day, you're so depressed for that week that you lost? Like, I don't buy that.
yeah,
As you
no,
go home to your palatial, mansion, like, get out of here, dog. Like, come on now.
yeah, no. This is
So we
so.
yeah.
So speaking of, we can. That's a good
This is
segue.
actually a good
It's a good
transition. Yeah, go
segue.
ahead,
It's a
go
good
ahead, go ahead.
segue. So on a personal note,
Ladies and gentlemen, we've actually, I have to give Bobby a lot of credit. He sent me at like 6:53 a.m.
in the
a
morning,
list of things he wanted to talk about today. That's incredible.
yeah,
This guy worked last night. I was
I
like, all
did.
right,
I
I
didn't
like
get
waking up to
home.
this.
Yeah, I didn't get home till like 10:30. Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, so you know when you wake up, you gotta hit the bathroom. The bathroom wake up. We're getting
Yep.
older, man. I'm getting old. I'm almost 40. There's gonna be more of those. So it was one of those. It's like, all right, I gotta wake up, gotta rock a piss. Then oh, I got a couple ideas. Done. Um, so this is a good segue because I had the pleasure of meeting a lovely woman who's in the sports gambling industry. She's an
Ah,
influencer. I'll leave her name out of it. Chris, I'll tell
yeah.
you her name off air so
Well,
you can look her.
sports betting, man.
Yeah,
We could talk about that another day. Go ahead.
yeah. She's in. So she's not on ESPN or anything like that now,
So, an
but
up and coming influencer, let's call her
correct.
that,
And she's extremely attractive in my
which
opinion.
is kind of a prerequisite, I would
Yeah,
assume. But
yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
go
Oh
go
yeah,
ahead.
to be on television, of course, it helps. It definitely
Yeah,
helps.
it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and so I met her through my sports connections,
Okay.
and I took her out one night, Italian dinner, Chris Corvo style, Italian dinner in Soho.
Oh
You know
yes,
what I'm saying?
the pasta.
Yeah. And she's not the type of girl that I would normally envision myself being attracted to because she's not my type. She's a Midwestern. She's she's not. I wouldn't say she's a farm girl, but she's a suburban Midwestern girl.
I mean, okay, I'm gonna pause you for
Yeah,
1 second. Essentially, what you're saying is that she's an American Canadian.
pretty much.
I
Yeah,
just blew your mind,
yeah,
and you love
yeah,
Canadians. Open your mind,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
But
She's
go ahead, go
correct.
ahead.
Correct. That's yeah. You. It's like the John C. Riley meme from Tim and Eric. Yeah, when the galaxy explodes in front of his
Yes,
face.
he's like, oh my goodness, I
Yeah,
didn't think of it that way.
never thought of
But
it that way.
go ahead, keep going.
So she's So I prefer. We've talked about this before when we were talking about that dinner episode where I like the South Americans, the North Africans, Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia, and then the Middle Eastern. I like the Lebanese, the Israeli,
Ladies
and
and
I
gentlemen,
like
he
the
can say
Persian.
this because he's a brown person. He is
Yes,
of Latin descent.
I am a Puerto Rican man, and American though, Bronx race. Let's have it right. So, and I like the Persians. So I like Persians, Middle East, North African, and South American, and
Okay.
American Jewish women
I
too,
love how
and
you have
American Jewish.
he's pulled out a list. He's like, these are the women I have met,
Well,
and I found
that's
out
what I'm saying.
I
That's my
found
type.
their background. I know their ancestry, their geographical location. I've
Yeah, yeah.
identified these parts of the world of which I find the females of that species
It's attractive,
desirable.
aesthetically pleasing. Exactly,
Yes.
correct. Uh, there's nothing wrong with that. There's
No,
a
nothing.
very diverse
I
group.
mean,
I'm
no,
global.
I was gonna say, dude, you're the you're hitting more of the planet. It's almost like at that point you don't even mention places. You just say, "I like women of the world."
Yeah, yeah. But I never thought I would be attracted to a suburban Midwestern girl, but I was.
Okay, cool.
And I talked to a couple of people about this. I wanted no names will be said.
No, please
And
don't.
I said, they're like, this is not normally what you go for. And I said, well, I'm going to play the hand I was dealt. So I was dealt this hand, took her out. She's lovely. She knows more about sports or American sports than I do because I don't watch NFL. She's into. I might be giving too much away now, but I'm not going to say more than this.
Yeah, don't. I mean, don't give too
She's
many
basically
details.
she's into American sports gambling, so not soccer, not the
Okay, that's
global.
it.
Yeah,
That's fine.
so I'm not going to say anything more than that. So
No
she
one is
knows.
listening to this, but yeah, let's like not
Yeah,
blow
but
things
they
on the
might.
spot.
They might.
They
There's a
might.
couple people I know that
They
will.
might.
uh, she is incredible. So took her out. She doesn't live in New York, so it was quick. But she's coming back during the Halloween season. So
Interesting. So she was in town for like a work event.
yeah,
Was the sound I'm assuming.
she's trying to get a job at ESPN or Barstool Sports,
Okay.
which ESPN is headquartered in Connecticut, and Barstool is headquartered in like
New York. Okay.
New York City. Yeah. So she's trying to get a job being a gambling advisor. Like the sports, like, oh, today's game is like, you know what I'm saying? Today, take this team plus whatever. You know what
I
I'm saying?
despise
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
but go ahead.
yeah. I don't like that
Sports betting
industry.
is ridiculous. But anyway, keep
Yeah.
going. Keep going.
So she, yeah,
I'm not trying to
she's
throw
trying to
mud at
get a
anyone.
job in that industry, and let's just say there was a lot of lunging and plunging, Chris.
I don't know. That was way too many details, and that was very graphic for YouTube audiences.
It doesn't matter. It's
I
the
think you could
truth,
have
man.
left. I think you could have left this up to someone else's imagination. Less is more sometimes.
Yeah, fair enough.
But go ahead.
That's good.
What?
That's what the X Files did. Leave it to your
Correct.
imagination.
You have to leave it to your imagination.
But the important part of our actual conversation is
like M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah,
Shyamalan.
That's
Okay, yeah, keep going.
yeah, this is gonna be hilarious. But the important takeaway from our days spent together before she went back home is her manager. I don't think she has an actual agent, but her manager, like the social media manager. I don't know anything about that world.
Yeah.
And she was telling me that her manager is like, if you enter into the OnlyFans world, and all the people, anyone who's listening, if they are listening, they'll know what OnlyFans is. It's so crazy now.
Yeah.
Her manager said you can make millions of dollars, millions in a year, not a couple 100,000. It's like if you entered into the OnlyFans world and did subscription based content,
yeah,
you could be a millionaire. And to her credit, she said, I was offered several of those, and I said no to all of them. So
Hmm.
they respect her because it's still it's and the main point of me bringing up this entire story is
Yeah,
we're
this is all
living
preamble,
yeah
but go ahead.
we're living in a society now where this type of content is not only glorified, young men and women, men too, they're making some coin on there as well.
Well, I imagine
They're,
there's a huge gay audience.
yeah. There's both all genders, every
Women are
anything
not.
you
I don't think women are probably the subscription base for that service. But go ahead.
but anything you identify as, there's a market for. So
True.
yeah, so she was
Yeah.
offered all these deals, and she was like, "No, I'm not doing that. I want to be." Because her goal eventually is to be on television presenting sports gambling, advising content. But anyway, but
Yeah.
what the reason why I raised this topic is what do you like? How did we get to this place? And is it? And how do you feel about it?
I wish we had recorded
Yeah,
that phone call we had that one
yeah,
day.
exactly.
Well, what do you think about it? Since you kind of set the table,
Yeah.
you give me your thoughts, and then
Right.
I have many, so I'll give you mine.
My thought is it's. I'm not going to say it's repulsive, but I don't like it. I don't want any part of it. But
Anytime someone says that, they mean what they
they mean
what
with
they
the yeah,
said it wasn't.
probably.
But go
But
ahead, keep
when
going.
I said that, I don't mean to get between. If anyone has an avenue where they can make serious money, we're talking about serious dough. If you want to go down that route, I'm not going to hold it against you. Never. I'm
Well,
not
but
judging.
how about this dude? Let's say you found out that the quarterback of like the Super Bowl got paid $1 million to throw it, or let's say $100 million to throw that
To
game.
throw the game. I would be
You
pretty pissed off
so
if
I
it was
mean,
my team. Yeah,
so
fair.
that's kind of counter to what you were saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it all, dude. This stuff all it boils down to like, I mean, it's not to be like, it's the price of your soul. I mean, to use like kind of a word that many people have
yeah.
different definitions of it, but like it comes down to like
They're selling
non-material,
out for the dollar.
like ethics, right? It's like so like, would you kill someone for $500 million? Right? Obviously, there are things that like I would say, or I think most people would say, is like, all right, yeah, you could get. I'm going to get in the way of that. Like you know what I mean? Like you can't. There's a lot of things, avenues to make a lot of money that
Yep.
are like morally reprehensible, and that we say are not, in some cases, legal or morally right. Like, I mean, I think that's true. So we already do that. So I will, yeah, I'll get in the way of that. Um, Now this is not one of those things, man. It's like what you choose to do with your body and stuff like that. I mean, that's your choice. And if it's a marketplace for it, then I mean, it's not. I don't have to agree with it, but that's not my right to say you can't do it. You know what I mean? I'm kind of for prostitution. Like, I think it's kind of ridiculous that.
Really
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I mean, I don't think I would ever. I would never use a
partake.
prostitute.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't think I ever would. Especially now, I wouldn't. But like, I do think it's kind of ridiculous because it's like I can go if you are a beautiful woman, you can be wined and dined endlessly for free and never have to, like, let's say, consummate those encounters.
Yeah.
But that guy paid for your time and your attention, in essence, right? I mean, in essence, if you boil it
Eh,
down, he did, right? Like if if we're dealing with upper echelon society where you're going to go out to dinner and take someone out and it's going to be like $500 with drinks, like he paid for your time and your attention, right? Like
yeah.
borderline, period. So what's the difference of him then like paying $500 to a woman to have sex with him? This is not even morality. Like I'm leaving morality out of the table. It's just like the exchange of goods and services. In one case, he can exchange goods for time, and that's perfectly fine.
Right.
But he can't exchange goods for other goods, like i.e., sex.
Yeah.
Um, So I think prostitution is very like it's because it's also a very gray area because like you hear about people who are OnlyFans like stars, whatever, who are also kind of like. I mean, I'm not in that world. I don't know, but I have heard for the right price, you could find somebody that will sleep with you.
it probably
So you're
costs
maybe
a
not a
shitload, but
professional
yeah,
prostitute, but you're like within certain situations that contract can be made.
yeah, correct.
So that's my point. It's like just streamline it. Like if it's legal, like if you want to be a professional prostitute, I mean that's your choice. And then just regulate it so that like there can't be a pimp that can like beat up a prostitute. Like you know what I mean? Everyone's a free agent in essence. Like
You're a entrepreneur. You're independent. Yeah,
because I mean
exactly.
essentially OnlyFans is kind of like
You do everything yourself. You're
you're
not.
getting into that realm. Like it's not that too big of a logical step. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of similar. Like you're a free
similar.
agent, you're selling your, or you're like in some cases because OnlyFans you could be. I think it is kind of predominantly people who are show a lot of skin, but like I don't think you have to. I mean, there's probably OnlyFans that's maybe someone dressed kind of provocatively doing the weather, right? Like I mean, I would
Yeah,
imagine
no,
there's
you're right. You're right.
it runs a gambit, but like predominantly it is like in some way selling a sexual vibe. It might not. It can be on two different spectrums: extremely explicit, or probably like little risque, but no more risque than like the weather in like some of the South American countries. If you've seen clips,
Yeah.
um,
Or Miami.
or Miami. Um,
But I know
so
what you mean.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know, man. I do think it's kind of like it. I mean, if you
However,
think about,
okay, then I
go ahead.
disagree. I disagree entirely.
Oh
But
yeah, let me hear it. We should have
the
talked about this
only
at the
the
beginning,
yeah, yeah, we should have.
but go ahead, go ahead.
We got a few minutes left. So the one thing I would say that I do agree with you is for me, I'm just speaking for myself, my
Yeah,
perspective,
yeah,
and
that's all we're.
it's
Yeah.
morally reprehensible for me, right?
Okay. I mean,
For
I
me.
don't disagree with that.
But what I do disagree with you wholeheartedly is now let's say you're a 23-year-old man or woman and you have the ability to stay in your bedroom and make $3 million a year. Who's to say what you're doing is wrong? People are paying you, they want to see it. Why is that wrong?
Oh no, but like I don't think we're disagreeing. I
Yeah,
mean, I kind of agreeing with you. I'm saying like morally, like I guess I'm saying I'm not going to get in the way of you doing this. Like it's a free country. If there's a seller and there's a market for people who want to buy that product, like it's not really up to me to determine. But again, it like to my point earlier, it does depend on the product. If I was selling like you know what I mean, like in this case, we deem it legal what's being sold. So all I was saying is that like there are situations where like just because there's a seller and there's a buyer, there's certain things we identify as a society that are like, no, even though you can sell that and someone will buy it, it's not
yeah,
allowed.
okay.
And like
Oh,
let your imagination dance with that for a little
yeah,
bit,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
you know that to be true. Within the confines of this, no, I agree. Like I think in the long term it's not a net positive for society.
I
But
was
like
just gonna say, yeah.
who am I? I mean, I don't have a right to really stop you. Like why
All right,
it's just like old school sex phones, right? If
yeah,
someone wants to be on the phone listening to you speak seductively to them, do I think it's probably beneficial for you in the long term? I mean, probably not, but I mean, who am I to tell you how to spend your money in that respect? It's like gambling.
yeah.
I don't think it's probably good like that our society has legalized like the advertising of sports betting.
Yeah.
I would say I would be curious to hear someone make an argument of like why it's good to make sports betting
It's so
um,
popular now too. It's like,
popular and
yeah,
easy to do, knowing that gambling destroys people's lives. Like
correct. Yeah,
it
that
does. Like
I'm with you. But then
right?
let me
But
change.
but
But
I guess my point is though, is like if you want to gamble your money away, who am I really to like? I don't have a right. You made that money. You worked. Unless you're not stealing to get it. I don't have, like, spend your money how you want to spend it. That's your choice. But I can also say I don't think this industry is overall good for like society. So those are like
yeah,
two different things.
yeah, fair. But so let me change my challenge to this. I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
If you met someone, it doesn't have to be in a romantic way, just maybe a friendly way, and
Yeah.
you met someone and they told you that's what they did for a living, how would you feel about
Um
that?
I mean
That's probably a better question.
that's a good that's a I mean, yeah, let's
Yeah,
bring it home.
yeah,
And then I can ask you the same
yeah.
question. I like let's I think it would definitely prevent me from see I don't know, right? Cuz like if feelings were involved, your checklist changes, but just thinking about it now, I think it would bother me. Like I don't think I would want to date
Okay, at least
someone.
you're being honest, though.
I
Yeah,
don't think I would want to date someone who I knew was putting out, let's say 15 hours of like content a week where they're nearly naked and there's people literally like masturbating to them.
yeah, oh yeah,
I mean,
oh
that would
yeah,
bother me. Just like some of these guys you see, these influencers like dating like porn stars. That would not,
absolutely. Yeah.
I think that would, I don't know how that would not bother a person.
It doesn't bother a lot of people. I'm telling
It,
you right
it
now.
doesn't. To me, it would bother me. So that means when I go
Yeah,
out, like, because those people also live in these microcosms, right? They all live. It's like, to me, it's almost the same of like, it's like celebrities. Like, here's a perfect example. It's not, but like, um, Jennifer Lopez. I saw like a clip and it was like her over the last 20 years, how many husbands she's had.
yeah. It's like five, right?
No, it's more than that.
It's more.
It's more than that. I want to say, and I might be exaggerating. You can look it up. It might be like 10 people. It's a lot. Like, or at least over
Holy
the course of
shit.
her life, it's like it might be 10. And then she married and remarried some of them.
Yeah, Ben
Um,
Affleck is getting
correct.
he's getting the
So,
bag on this one. Yeah,
so let's say you live in like Hollywood, so a kind of a microcosm, because also not even just
yeah.
Hollywood in general, they also are only going to the same places, right? So you kind of live in a small world, even though you have a lot of resources. But like I would be uncomfortable. This is just me speaking. Maybe it's a hang up. I don't think it is. Of like, all right, I'm dating Jennifer Lopez and I take her out and there's like, let's say a high likelihood that 2 to 3 people in any of those given rooms has like been deeply intimate with this woman. Like not like had they dated once or twice. It's like they were married for like 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, you're going a little too far with three people, but yeah, maybe one. Jeez.
Well, I mean,
Or
maybe
in the
one,
Hollywood,
but
you're
I'm
talking about the
saying like
Hollywood
all of the
circles.
people she's married are also like in the
Yeah, yeah,
business.
I see what you're saying.
So when you go to events, like there's a high likelihood that more than one, like Ben Affleck and whatever that singer was, there's a good chance they're going to
Mark
be
Anthony. Yeah,
in similar environments on
yeah,
multiple occasions, right?
yeah.
And
But
like right. I mean, because they're all, it's not like she's traveling the world and married a person from a different country and all. Like they're all in the
they're
Hollywood
all
world.
musicians and actors.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So, or they know each other. Like to me, I think I would be uncomfortable by that. I'll just be frank. Like, I wouldn't want my wife to have been like deeply intimate with 10 people before me. Like, I'm not even talking about these are 10 people she had one night stands with. Like, I'm thinking these are 10 people who she's been with for numbers of years. Um,
Had children with.
in some cases,
Yeah,
I don't know if she how many kids, but you know what I mean.
yeah.
Like I
Well,
do
she
think
has.
that would bother me because that means it's like 10 other personalities that are like kind of in my marriage.
Yeah, I
They
get. I
they really are right.
It's
Like
true.
how
It's
are
true
they not involved? How are
because
they not connected to you now?
she still has obviously a relationship with the ex-husband because her kids have to see the ex-husband. He has time with them, so he's gonna be around. You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
Or when you turn on the
You
TV,
see him.
you
Yeah.
see, oh, there's a Ben Affleck movie. Oh, that guy dated my
Um,
wife and like did sorts of things to her.
yeah.
Oh, it's like the
Yeah.
Latin
Yeah.
Latin Grammys. Oh, there's Mark Antony. He's
Yeah.
who knows what
But that
they
that,
did
that I
together.
think that's. I would. I, listen,
And
I
that's
like
even
Jennifer
different.
Lopez.
That's even I'm not
I'm gonna back the Puerto Rican here, the Bronx. She grew up like 10-minute walking distance from me,
No, I
so I'm
mean,
gonna
hey,
support Jennifer.
I'm not saying, dude, it's not my business. Like at the
Right.
end of the day, like that's you reaped your own whirlwind. Like if there's negatives to living that way,
Um,
she's
sure.
dealing with them. If there's positives, she's enjoying them. I don't know, but I'm
Right.
just saying, like if I met someone and I knew that there was that degree of like that's what I'm getting involved with, that would definitely influence my decision to get involved or not get involved.
Yeah. No. No. I can see your perspective. I understand that.
So like, dude, you're telling me if you met, like, let's say you're out and you met this girl and you kind of liked her, and then you found out that she was, and again, anyone listening, this can cut both ways. I'm a
Right.
man talking about a woman, but like if you were a
Same
woman, you
way.
could be
Same way.
applied to a
Yeah.
man, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like, and I think it would definitely apply.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
But let's say you went out and you met this girl and you like kind of liked her, and then you found out she'd been in 100 X-rated movies. Because it's not like they
Good
do one or
question.
two. I mean, that's like quick turnaround time.
Yeah.
You telling me? I mean, maybe it wouldn't. For me, if I liked her a lot, it would be hard. Like I don't think I could, because that means anyone I met who found my wife could go online and start watching my wife do all sorts of things
with another
with who
partner,
knows what and when.
with multiple partners. Yeah.
I'm not even making like I have other. I'm leaving some of my own personal judgments aside. Like I'm just saying, like within the confines of that relationship, I'm not even putting a moral value on like that industry. I'm just saying, me personally, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to do that. I don't think. I think it would definitely cloud or influence my desire to pursue a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
But that's me. That's where
Yeah.
I'm
No. No.
coming
No.
from.
I like that. For me, this might be a weird thing to say, but being depends. I think the the website shit, the like the webcam OnlyFans stuff. I have I usually have a more of a disdain for than if she was an adult entertainer,
So okay, explain that, because
which
that's
is
kind
weird.
of I
Yeah,
can kind of maybe see where you're coming
yeah.
from. But I'm curious. Can you kind of we're kind
Be,
of coming up on time, but can you
yeah, yeah, yeah,
summarize?
yeah. So quickly, yeah. To see, you're right. We should have left this for a full episode
And
because
maybe we can pop it, because it's kind of
yeah,
becoming an ever growing thing. Because I think more and more people are on like
yeah.
OnlyFans, for example. But go ahead, go ahead.
So I think because in if you're doing films and adult entertainment, I think that is explicitly I'm an actor, you're an actress, we're going to film a scene. There's nothing more involved. Whereas the OnlyFans, then you get into the weeds, then you get into the fetishes and all this stuff, and things could get a little squirrely. That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
Maybe
I
she
was
really likes that, but I think more in the like if you look at the L.A. like Boogie Nights, think of the movie Boogie Nights, where they're just it's for Burt Reynolds. He's a director. He doesn't care about anything. You see what I'm trying to say? It's more of
well,
like
it's
an
like
art form for him. Yeah,
it's a business, right?
yeah. You see what I'm
I
saying?
mean, I would say you're probably drawing lines that don't really exist, because
Yeah,
like I would imagine
maybe.
in the adult
Yeah.
industry you
There's
have a huge depth of variety. I would imagine that goes from the
the
quote
standard
unquote
to the crazy.
normal
Yeah,
to extremes,
yeah,
um, which I personally don't think it's good for. I don't like, as someone who as a younger man has consumed. I mean, I think at this day and age most people have consumed pornography. Um, I don't think, I
yeah.
do think as a net negative
Mm-hmm.
on like the on your psyche. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but again, it's like I don't think I'm can say like, if that's what you want to pursue as like if you want to consume that, it's like drugs. Like I would say doing heroin is not a good thing. Um, but I don't know if I would say like if it's great to make it like if that's what you want to do and you're not hurting anyone. I don't know. Like I would say it's not a good idea to do. Um, I think kind of pornography is the same in that like I don't think it's good. I don't think you could ever ban it. I don't know if it should be good to live in a society where you could ban it, but like yeah, I don't think it's a net
Yeah,
positive.
yeah. I think the
And
overarching thing is I agree with you there.
and I
It's
think with
not good.
OnlyFans, it's
It's not
kind of
good.
the same thing. You're just making like pornography like even more in a sense consumable, and you also are creating like this weird, to use like thirst trap kind of like it's just not good, right? Like I just don't think it's good for like men. I'll speak plain. I don't
Yeah.
think it's good for men to be on their computer like thirsting after this woman behind a screen who's doing whatever, and they're sending her their money just to like see her. It's
Sometimes it's
like
just to talk to them too.
yeah, and
It's
I mean,
kind of
I
it's
think
where it
that
gets
there's a
bizarre.
demand for that is like not good. Like the fact that there's a demand for that means that there's like a
Yeah,
lot of
I
like
think you got a
unhappy
good point there.
people that are not like satisfied and don't have any like meaningful personal relationship.
Yeah, I think that's a good. You
Like
made a
and
good point.
so it's also feeding that. Like it's like that demand exists for that. It's meeting that demand, but it's also um it's fueling the demand as well. So like the fact that like an attractive woman can sit at home and make like interesting OnlyFans videos, which essentially I imagine are not even that like high in production quality.
Of
It's
course
just
not.
like
It's like a webcam. Yeah,
it's just an attractive girl.
yeah,
Which this is nothing new about this. Like let's be honest, like this
yeah.
is
It's
nothing
been
new about
around.
webcams. Um,
It's just that's a good.
it's what's new about it is that it's become socially acceptable,
Yeah, that's where you hit bingo.
and
That's what I'm
that
gonna
to
say. That's the
me,
part that bothers me the most. That it's glorified
yeah,
now.
that is where I think it's like, well, this is not a good thing. Like,
Yeah, then I'm with you there. I'm with
because
you on that.
webcams were never like, even when we were young people, like once the internet was there, webcams existed. It's just like if you were a webcam person, you didn't probably broadcast it. Whereas now, there
Now
and
you
only
have subscribers.
well, and now you would say it. You're like, hey, I'm an OnlyFans star, and it's like, yeah, that to me is like not a good thing. Like it's not. It's like a not a good thing.
Yeah, that part. See, that societal
In
part
my
of it.
opinion, I
I
don't think
agree
it's a
with
good.
you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not a good thing.
yeah. I think.
It would be good for a man too, man. If a handsome guy can just be on his computer and like, in
Yeah,
his
yeah,
with
yeah.
shirtless, like touching himself, and people want to pay for that, which that definitely exists. I
Oh,
can guarantee
of
that.
course.
Um, it's like just because you can do something, I don't like. This is how I fall, and we can end here. Is like
Yeah, I think we're meeting at the middle here. It's a
yeah,
good
like
discussion.
there's many things that I would say I don't agree with, but I don't think I think it would be wrong to make them illegal because that means you're saying the government is deciding what consenting adults should be or should not be able to do. So like that's where I kind of, but I can make like a moral argument of like, I don't think this is a good thing, right? Like, so that's kind of where I'm saying like, I don't think it should be illegal. If you want to do it, I think you want to do it. I do think it's kind of interesting that like you can do that, but you can't be a prostitute or an escort legally. Like that, I think is a little bit of a weird gray area. Um, but yeah, all right, that's fine. You can do that. But again, I think it's like morally probably not right. And if I was to if I was to meet someone and I found out that that's what they did, again, it would depend on exactly what they're doing, right? If they're like wearing a low cut shirt and telling the news, I might feel differently than if they are, dancing topless for 10 hours a day streaming.
Hmm.
Like, I would say maybe one, I'd say, oh, all right. I mean, when I turn the news on, like you said, the Miami news is not that different. Um, the other one, maybe would make me be different. But again, it's like, I'm going to now take you out on my arm. We're going to go out. And, you know, I'm kind of old school. Like, dude, I think there's some truth to this, and sorry, I'm kind of rambling. Is
No,
like,
no, no. I
dude, the
gotta go closer.
idea,
I gotta
yeah,
go.
the idea is that like, two people find themselves. Maybe this is kind of this is what I believe, so I'll just say it, right, and then they have kind of like an intimate. They have like a safe space between them, in essence, where they like share things with each other that they ideally don't share with the world, right? Like that
Yeah,
becomes like the
yeah,
core of their relationship, right? Like they are together and like they know each other better than other people know them because they also share parts of their life with each other that they don't share with other people, right? And that kind of creates like a solid unit. Whereas in this case, it's like saying the parts that we would keep hidden, kind of like protected within our little circle, I'm going to share them to the world. And then you expect that that will not somehow
yeah.
taint or affect
I get you. I
the
get
solidity of your relationship. To me, it's like, I think the proof is in the pudding. How many of these people find long-term relationships and how many of them are just kind of like serial dating until they're just no longer attractive?
you. Yeah, you're right about that. I think
Damn, that was a little harsh, so I apologize.
no, it's not harsh.
But I think it's true,
Listen,
right? We're watching people who are in their 20s. We're not seeing them when they're 40
yeah,
or
no,
50.
there's nothing harsh
So
about that. You're
we're
speaking
not going to
facts,
see the repercussions of their
straight facts.
choices for another 30 years.
Yeah,
And dude, when I lived in New York, I spent a lot of time with older women who didn't do this, obviously, but made choices in their youth and are now kind of reaping the whirlwind in their 70s.
yeah,
And it's kind of like, dude, we're a lot of these things are new, and we're not enough time has passed to see. Oh, okay, cool. This is a great lifestyle for you in your 20s, let's say, and you're saying it to the world. This is a great way to live. Da 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 da. But again, like now, let's have that conversation when you're 40 or 50 or 60, and then we might look back and say,
yeah. Fair. That's fair.
this is maybe wasn't the best choices. But go ahead, finish your thoughts, and then we'll
Yeah,
wrap up.
yeah, yeah. No, no, I hear all that. That wasn't harsh. That was street facts. So what I would say, I think where we butt heads on this issue, no pun intended, it's we. I think I find it reprehensible in a weird way. Like I think, I mean, I'm not. I don't mean to be presumptive, but I think you're coming from it from a more like spiritual, religious background. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
right. So what I would say, what how I find it reprehensible is it's a cheat code to a lucrative career. That's why that's kind
You're
of
like,
funny.
I don't have that
Yeah,
ability to do that.
I can't make $3 million a fucking year. But these figures are astronomical.
Yeah, but here, Rob, let's
Yeah,
just say it. Sorry to cut you off,
yeah.
but like, let's just say you could. Would you do it? Let's say, I mean, there's a
Uh,
lot of gay men in the world, right? Like, men consume this entertainment more than any, straight and gay.
yeah, but females
You might
dominate this
fit
industry.
a gay stereotype. Would you be willing to kind of play to
Uh,
that arena if you can make $3 million a year?
yeah, wow. No, the answer is no.
So there you
But
go. So think about that for a second.
I wouldn't judge someone for doing it. You see what I'm saying?
No, but why wouldn't you be willing to do it then?
I'm too uncomfortable. I would be too shy. I just can't
So
do
is it
it.
just that you're shy and you had to get over that shyness, that's kind of
I mean, we're opening up a big can of worms here. If I
well, but I'm
say
saying,
if I answer this
but
question,
yeah, I mean, or is it? Well, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of like there's a lot of male strippers that strip at gay strip clubs that are not gay. They just know that's where the money's at, so that's where they strip.
fair.
So that, like, let's just now move that stage to OnlyFans. So if you knew you had an audience of men who found you attractive, you're not gay.
Right.
You don't have to touch any of them, but like, would you do a little dance, maybe show a little skin if they were gonna like, I don't know, pay you 50K a month?
I don't think I could actually record those type of videos. I can't do
So
it.
you got
I can't
so
do it.
So you got to think about that. Like maybe
Yeah.
you're more in line with
But
my
I hear,
thinking.
that challenge. That was a proper challenge. I get what you're saying.
Right, because that's not your original thing was just more like it's not fair that you can get by on your looks, and there's so many
Yeah,
hungry
and
men
never
that'll
leave
pay
your
you for it.
house. And never leave your house. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know, man. So
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot more we can go into, but
yeah,
let's wind her down.
I think we're gonna. This was an interesting episode. As usual,
Yeah, it's
we
good.
engage in conversational parkour, and we
Yeah.
never end where we
It was good.
start.
The last half was really good. Yeah.